This is Rebecca Lowe, or Rebecca Lua, if you listen to Suboptimal Radio, and you are listening to Men in Blazers on the NBC Sports Network.
It's unbelievable!
From the Embassy Road studios, in the crap part of Soho, it's the Men in Blazers podcast, Rog.
A special one, David.
Well, we're both a little under the weather.
We are.
Yeah.
Yes, we're going to bring the treacle.
We're going to bring the treacle.
But if you don't really want to listen to this pod, because you've got used to us being away, just listen to minutes 30, 33,
43,
33, and 69. That's what I'm going to tell you.
Okay, very good. So we're definitely going longer than 69 minutes.
Dave,
I was hoping for a short one today.
You've got a suntan.
I got a bit of a suntan back from Blighty, Rog, back from the UK, 5-day trip. Spent most of it splayed out on the bed with a case of food poisoning, come gastric flu. Not quite sure what it was.
It's the best way to see England, according to the tourist board.
It is. It's not a bad way to see London. Actually, London was looking great, Rog. London, I'll tell you, it's good to see all the money's going down south and, keeping the heathens at the gate from the north, and London looking very, very good.
Yep, from your hotel bed.
Yeah, pretty much. But saw an interesting article in the paper, Rog, and you've been right all along. English language pop music song lyrics are among the most miserable forms of writing in the world. This has taken mathematicians from the University of Vermont to find this out. I'm glad that's what they're studying. Yeah,
this was the big news story.
Big news in Britain. Mathematicians from Vermont have confirmed what fans of Adele, Radiohead and Lana Del Rey may already suspect. The English language pop song lyrics are one of the most depressing forms of writing in the history of the planet. A study has found that English-spoken song lyrics are more miserable than Russian literature, which has brought us less than cheery classic novels such as Anna Karenina and Crime and Punishment. Only Chinese novels and Korean film subtitles, Rog, and I assume that's North Korean film subtitles, which can be full of violence and gothic themes, were ranked less happy than English song lyrics.
So you're telling me that the music that we grew up on is more depressing than novels in which characters are wounded at the Battle of Austerlitz, presumed dead, only to arrive home in time to catch their wife die in childbirth, before declaring their love to another on their own deathbed. English pop music is
Which North Korean film are you referring to there,
English pop music is sadder than Doom Love, David.
Yeah.
That's when you told me this, because you came back very excited.
Well, no, because I knew that this is something that would excite you, Rog.
But it's what I lived. It's not news to me. This is what I mean. You listen to what we grew up on, and I would imagine also 97% of people who listen to music don't listen to lyrics. Maybe it's 96%.
Yeah, I don't remember lyrics. I never remember lyrics. It's part of my goldfish personality.
Yeah, but you listen to what we grew up on. Yeah. Heaven knows I'm miserable now. There's a clue in the title, David.
There is.
Two lovers entwined, pass me by. Heaven knows I'm miserable now.
Yeah.
And it's not surprising. It's not surprising. However,
see, all I can remember is Walking on Sunshine. That's all I remember.
The
That's
American
me.
music
That's
that we used to listen to that came over was upbeat, and it promised. I mean, the Hooters. God, it doesn't get much more optimistic than that. I think the English stuff, I listened to Sinead O'Connor's debut album. When you read me that article, I listened to the whole thing through. My God, it was dark, and that's what we cut our teeth. That's why we are the great pessimists that we are, Davo. But however crap English culture is, it's still cheerier than the Oscar Awards.
Oh, my God, the Academy Awards, Rog.
They were creme de la creme.
I was flying during them. I didn't see them. You did your minute sort of recap on the show last night, and from everybody I've heard of who saw them, just thought they were terribly depressing and dull.
Yeah, I think their greatest achievement was probably to make the Ballon d'Or seem well-produced, entertaining and to the point. Mm-hmm. I don't understand it. I'd say the one big takeaway of these Oscars, I have thought about it, and then I want to talk to you about them, David.
Yeah, thank you,
because you once produced them.
Well, I was the executive at the network on them,
But I was just amazed how much football, the game we love, impacted the Oscars this year. I take that as a good. So I'm trying to be optimistic about the Oscars, David. Mm-hmm. I mean, Juliana Rancic, David.
Yeah.
She keeps shrinking in between appearances. It now seems as if the look that she's going for is David Silver in drag.
Yeah.
Which makes me ever more... Lexi, the producer, is shaking her head side to side.
Yeah. She's a big Juliana Rakic fan.
Maybe I didn't go to Fashion Week. Maybe that is the style for spring. David Silver in drag. Kelly Osbourne unveiled kind of the purple Olivia Giroud haircut.
Was what came out of Fashion Week this year. Stealth Wealth came out of Fashion
David
Week.
Silver.
Yeah.
Reese Witherspoon went for the blonde George Boyd, which I found is Jared Leto.
Yeah.
Fascinating human being. He's like a composite photograph. If you took every single Premier League footballer and then kind of Photoshop their hair, their facial hair, their hair into one human being.
It would be Jared Leto.
Yeah.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
And Wes Anderson, Mixed Discarud. I love that.
He looks as if Mixed Discarud got a deal to do the Rob Lowe Direct TV commercials. Wes Anderson would be less sporty Mixed Discarud.
Yeah.
Liam Neeson clad in black.
Yeah.
I just wanted Ryan Seacrest, who you'll also have to explain to me. I wanted him to interview Liam so we could ask him who he was wearing, and then Liam could just lean into the microphone and say, Brendan Rodgers.
Yeah.
Because it was as if he had ripped off Brendan's kind of sideline stuff. But John Travolta feeling up Idina Menzel's face.
Oh, that was awkward. I saw that clip, Rog.
It was as if, I've only seen one thing more awkward than that, which was Louis van Gaal cuddling Jose Mourinho earlier this season, which they may have been trying to symbolically reenact.
Oh, but there wasn't a lot of face touching there. Face touching is that's just a step too far.
A lot of you thought that the Oscars was so crap that we had somehow produced it. I want to make it clear we hadn't. If we had produced it, it would have been presented in a panic room.
Yeah.
And here's what I want to ask you.
Yeah.
As a one-time somewhat producer of the Oscars.
Network executive on the Academy Awards broadcast, 1998, 1999.
So were you the guy that brought on the briefcase at the end?
No, I had nothing to do with the accountancy firm of Pricewaterhouse or Ernst & Young or whoever it was.
The crazy thing is, the Oscars, they promise
I did sit in the control room, though, when the Academy Awards, when you sit in the control room in the truck and it's counting back and you're about to go live to 1 billion people, and that's quite exciting.
Yeah, and you just whisper in your host's ear and say, let's try and keep it under 7 hours, guys.
Let's just all have a lot of fun. Let's have a lot of fun. Let's act like we're just making this show for each other.
But the crazy thing is, the Oscars, it promises you red carpet, it promises you the glitz of like Real Madrid against Chelsea.
Yeah.
But they make you sit through West Brom Sunderland first to get to that. It's the dull centre of the show makes no sense to me, Davo. Can you explain it?
Well, can I say first of all that I don't understand. This year there was only one potential winner of the Best Picture this year, and it wasn't even nominated, and that was Paddington, that should have walked away with the whole thing. Paddington was just... Producer Lexi and I were talking about this earlier. It was the greatest film made this year. I cannot believe anybody could make a better film than Paddington ever. Yeah, it was magnificent.
But the Academy do shy away from controversial movies, Dave. So I think they wouldn't touch that one with a barge pole.
That little bear, what an actor. I've never seen a bear act like that in a film either. So it lost a lot of credibility for me the minute that didn't win Best Picture. But yeah, you've got to honour, though, but it's the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, Rog. So they've got to honour the people who with the craft of filmmaking, the editors, the costume designers, the people who write the music, the people who do the cinematography. They've got to honour those people.
Yeah, but call me a troglodyte. We don't give a crap about short films for 364 days a year. We're happy they exist.
And yet, the people, Rog, the people, your people, the people love it. They love it. They watch it in record numbers. It's as profitable as ever.
This was terrible. The ratings is the only way this could have been worse to me is if they held it in Qatar, David, which they made.
What, November, December? Move it to winter.
There were like 2 human moments in it. One when John Legend talks about the insane rate of incarceration for African Americans in this country. And then when the Imitation Game screenwriter Graham Moore said, stay weird, stay different. And when it's your turn and you're standing on the stage, pass the message on to the next person that comes along, which was, I mean, a gorgeous sentiment. Also love Paweł Pawlowski, the Polish director of Ida, which was the best for you. Love Paddington.
Love Paddington.
Which talked about your people.
Yeah, the bears.
Ida talked about my people.
Yeah.
And about the Poles.
Yeah.
And he outlasted the walk-off music. It was the best film I saw last year.
Yeah, I want to see that.
Best thing out of Poland probably since Kazimierz Dana, as far as I'm concerned. Or
Lucas Podolski.
It's actually the second best movie of the year.
Yeah.
That was now that The Breakfast Club's coming back to theatres.
Yes, that's exciting.
Can you believe that's 30 years old, David?
Oh, my word. That's a long time ago now.
It's unbelievable, mate.
Yeah, really unbelievable.
It takes me back to, and we're trying to get Molly Ringwald to come on the pod.
I would love her on the pod.
Very, I would both love her, and I'm quite nervous about her coming on the pod.
I'm nervous about how nervous you are about her coming on the pod. I'm a little nervous about what you're going to say and how you're going to act.
I don't know how I'm going to act, because when I think about her coming on the pod, we have so many lovely people on the pod. Like we had a great guest on the show this week.
Well, can we just say that Jason Isaacs, Lucius Malfoy from Harry Potter, was on our TV show yesterday. But let's just put that aside.
A lovely man.
Rog realises about 2 hours before the show, having spoken to your mum back in Liverpool.
Yeah, Valerie.
And Jason Isaacs grew up in Liverpool as well.
Yeah.
You realise, and there are some scrawls on a notepad. Sort of, I don't know whether you're doing, I don't know if you're designing a rug, I don't know what you're doing, but there are scrawls in your chicken scratch, Rog.
Yeah.
And it turns out that you were related. You thought you might be related, then you definitely were related. Second cousins, once or twice removed.
We still can't work out. My scrolls did not give me a direct answer. My great-grandfather, Harris Pollitt, nephew of the Cossack killer Mendel.
Mendel, yeah.
Harris Pollitt was the one who came
Killed
over
so many
from Russia to Liverpool.
Yeah.
And he had 11 children.
Yeah.
One of them was my grandfather, Sam, who I named Samson, my first son, after.
Yeah.
And his great-grandma, Gittel, was Sam's sister, one of the 11.
I miss Gittel.
But they all fell out. All of them fell out. My grandfather spent the last years...
What is it, a Bruigus?
A Bruigus in Yiddish.
Bruigus.
Family argument. Why aren't you speaking to... So I'd say to me, my grandfather buried all of his 10 brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
And he spent the last years of his life going to funerals of people he'd not spoken to in decades.
Yeah.
And I'd say to him, Grandpa, why haven't you spoken to Gittel?
Yeah, to a family member.
And he'd say, there's Bruigus there.
And so what were they about?
And I'd say, what was it about? And he'd go, I can't remember. All he could remember was that. And
I sympathise with that.
I remember he wept at the recognition that he wasted those decades. Bruigus, couldn't remember what it was. There was hate, but there was also very realisation when they died. So I guess the moral of this is hate with reason. I'm not quite sure if that's the moral.
Hate with reason. If you're going to hate a family member...
Write it down.
Have a good reason. Write it down. So did you leave with Jason's phone number, his email address, so that you could, now that you've found your second cousin twice removed...
I've got his recipe for how the hell he's got such beautiful pecs and a full head of hair. That's what I want to know. It's hard to believe her actually...
Yeah, the family resemblance is striking.
It's hard to believe the DNA can warp within a couple of generations in such a shocking deviance. But what a gorgeous bloke. His grandfather, Eric, great jeweller, made my mother's engagement ring.
What? Say that again? His grandfather...
Eric was a great jeweller who made my mother's engagement ring.
Wow.
And all that leads us back to Molly Ringwald.
Yeah.
Because when I think about having her here, Davo, Jason Isaacs, he's like family to me. Wicked, get in the panic room.
God, I wonder if I'm related to Molly Ringwald. Anyway.
And when I think of Molly Ringwald coming to speak to us, I start to think about the young me who used to live and die while watching Weird Science. Treat it not as a film, but as like a documentary.
Yeah.
I really did when I first watched that. I thought it was real. And I remember getting so nervous also, trying to get into 9.5 weeks at the cinema. Being underage, it took me ages. I stood outside the cinema for hours and hours, afraid I'd be kicked out for not being the right age to get in. They just wanted my money in the cinema. They couldn't care less. But and when Molly comes on, Davo, I think I'm going to return to that persona. Might be ugly.
I can't wait. I hope that happens, Roger.
Well, probably the most important question for her that we've got to broach is about the emoticons. Now that Apple have brought out African-American emoticons and different shades of the only emoticon they currently don't have, and I know Molly will have a blazing opinion.
There's no Gingy.
There's no Gingy emoticons.
How does Jack Colback represent himself in an emoticon? How does Alexi?
I'm not sure that either of those two people have emotions. Using emoticons. I don't think either of those two have emotions, but it's just, as we've always said, they are the last...
The last group.
Subculture within humanity about whom it is absolutely fine to be racist towards.
Yeah, it's awful.
Gingy's power, we're with you.
We need to do a patch for that. We need to do it together with the Gingy's patch. It should actually have real red hair.
We stand with Gingies.
We stand with Gingies. We stand with Gingies will be an excellent patch. Okay, we've got a packed...
I want to do a million Gingy march.
Where should we go?
Are there a million Gingies in the world? Could we get to a million?
Well, we could exaggerate.
I would like to do
We
a
could
Men
get
in
like
Blazers
125.
show. I'm going to do a Men in Blazers show where we dye our hair gingy.
Yeah,
And
we're going to do
We
that.
stand with you, gingies.
Yeah,
in your
I'd like
struggle.
to do a gingy march.
Give me 100 good gingies,
Yeah.
and I'm going to bring Apple down.
Okay, looking forward to that. Okay, we got a packed show. We're going to break down Mourinho's 4 moments from Chelsea's draw with Burnley and Southampton's numerous penalty claims in their loss to Liverpool. We'll talk about FIFA's recommendation. Yeah, because that's all it was. It was just a recommendation, Rog.
Just floating this idea
just
out.
floating it out.
Just for the good of football,
Yeah,
maybe.
To move the 2022 World Cup to winter. And we're going to tend to your Ravens. We're going to be joined by the host of HBO's Last Week Tonight.
And an old GFOP.
Old GFOP, massive Liverpool fan, John Oliver.
Johnny O.
Yeah, looking forward to talking to him. Okay.
You know when you don't feel well, Dave?
Yeah.
What's the best medicine?
Well, I think it's Guinness. To the football, Rog.
Oh, it's the cure for all which ails you.
Oh, there we go.
I feel better already.
You do?
Yeah, I do. Do you know why I feel better already? We've not just got Guinness here.
Yeah.
We've got...
Now, we got Guinness potato chips, Rog. I saw you tucking into these before the beginning of the show.
Myself. When my dad does this when I'm on the phone, I hate it. And now I'm doing it to all of our listeners.
Continuing our mission.
Don't eat them all through
To
the show,
take-
it's annoying.
Taste buds to new extremes. We've taken fresh jalapeno chilies and infused the world's most iconic stout
Who's we?
It's me and you, Rog.
I got Burt's. I
to
think it's a
create
manufacturer called Burt's
Guinness's
send these in.
rich chili Burt's chips.
They made Burt's chips.
Not for the faint-hearted, these thick, cut, hand-cut crisps
Yep.
pack some serious punch with rich, deep layers of authentic flavour that will have you coming back crunch
I
after
would
crunch.
like Burt's, if you're listening, Burt's, who sent us these chips, I'd like
Yeah.
you to think about making a, you can't eat these, I'm going to go mental if you try and eat these all the way through
Can
the
I just
pod.
have one more?
Yeah. Oh my God. Honestly. Oh my God. My dad does this every time he speaks to me on the telephone. He's always eating a sandwich. And my mother's made, I have to say, Dad, can you just stop eating? Well, he's a man not meant to eat. Oh yeah, Bert, if you're listening, I know
Yeah.
you are. If you could make Guinness pie flavoured chips,
Yeah. I love pie flavoured
I'm just
chips.
doing your R&D for you.
Okay.
Big win.
Okay, enough with the crisps. We're now 38ths of the way through the Premier League season. That reduces, Roger, to 13/19ths. And after a weekend that saw the league leaders stumble and a top 4 shake-up, the big talking point is the referees, yet again, Rog. Chelsea won, Burnley won. The team atop the table drops points to a relegation zone side at home. That's a familiar story for Chelsea Football Club, Rog. Branislav Ivanovic put Chelsea ahead, latching onto an Eden Hazard pullback in the 14th minute. Burnley levelled the score in the 81st minute when Ben Mee headed home from a corner. But it wasn't the goals Mourinho talked about in his post-game interview, Rog.
Talking about Chelsea, Donald Sterling's favourite football team, David.
Below the belt.
Before we get into the
Yeah.
game,
Yeah.
let's talk about the story before the game.
Yeah.
So we're talking about the indefensible scenes from Paris after last week's Champions League tie. Chelsea fans on film caught a cell phone camera revelling as they prevented a black man board the Paris metro, and they taunted him with chants which ended, "We're racist, and that's the way we like it." The French bloke was found by this French media. Suleiman S. told the French press, "I stayed there a long time facing them. Somebody came up to me to tell me afterwards that I've been very brave to stand up to these people in that way. I went home without talking to anyone about what happened, not my wife or my children. What would I be able to tell them?"
Yeah. And I'd say this as a Chelsea fan, Rog. There were 2 incidents that have come to light this week, including Chelsea fans, and others included West Ham fans, that are absolutely disgusting, absolutely intolerable, absolutely indefensible. And any true fan of football, any true fan of either of those clubs, would distance themselves from it and just be ashamed about it. Jose Mourinho used the word ashamed. I think it's exactly the right word to go and use, and the right word echoed by the club and in their own statement. It's shocking. However, let us not believe that these 2 incidents involving Chelsea, the fans on the metro in Paris and the fans returning back at St Pancras, or what came to light this week about the chants of West Ham fans on the way to White Hart Lane with the anti-Semitic chanting terrible, awful songs that they were chanting there. Let's not imagine that these are the only 3 incidents involving the group of fans from Chelsea and West Ham who, those 2 clubs, I think one has to say, have a worse record in terms of racist incidents, racist arrests than any other clubs in the Premier League. But it's not also isolated to just those clubs in the Premier League. Certainly not. And it's not isolated, certainly, within the English Premier League. This is a massive problem across European football. It goes alongside the rise of nationalistic, anti-Semitic and racist parties across Europe. And very often the rise in the support of those parties is very much tied to the terraces of certain football clubs within those countries. It is a terrible problem. I've talked about it before, that the real problem with racism in football is not racism on the field of play. It is not racism amongst referees. It's not racism amongst officials, even though that exists and it's terrible in itself. The real problem in football is racism that persists amongst fans. Other fans allow this to happen, and the clubs allow it to happen. We've known this has been a problem since we were kids. We've seen it.
Absolutely.
In the one saving grace of this entire incident is perhaps people will now realize in the world of the smartphone, you just are not going to get away with doing that. And that's not that I want racists to be able to say, oh, suddenly I won't be so racist in public because people might have phones. But I want other fans, the fans who aren't racist, to turn on their phones and go and record this. And let's get these people out of football. Let's get them out of the terraces. Let's get them out of the game.
Yeah, I mean, football and racism, I mean, it's especially English football, Dave.
Yeah.
I mean, the game has definitely made huge progress from the 80s when so much of the game was kind of steeped in terrace culture / hooliganism / violence, and a lot of it was racially tinged. And this is not just Chelsea. I mean, I'll say Everton have had a terrible history, as have so many of the clubs. And while the game has progressed unbelievably since then, it's been sanitised, but not completely by any stretch of the imagination. Chelsea have actually acted quite quickly. You could say they've had some training. They've had some recent racial escapades, which may have given them somewhat of a communications plan to step forward rather forcibly.
Yeah.
I'd say for them it's probably partly ethically troubling, but I think it's also devastating for them from a global brand perspective.
Yeah.
But again, it's not just them. They've definitely had the most racist kind of police arrests over the past decade when you look at the statistics.
Yeah.
But it's also a week when Feyenoord fans shattered the fountain on Rome's Spanish steps. And by the way, I dread the reprisals that are sure to come when Roma play the return leg there next week. But I have to say that part of the reason Mourinho has stepped up so forcibly, you could say if you were cynical, Davo, so aggressively. He didn't just talk after the game. He didn't just talk to the press who were at the match afterwards. He then went on a media tour of English television stations on the Sunday so he could kind of really push this conspiracy Chelsea, the minutes story to the front pages and the back pages. Cynics may say he was just trying to flip the narrative script away from the racism almost. Mourinho's kind of post-match muttering the 30, 33, the 43, the 69, which kind of became the new I'm just here so I don't get fined. Part of me does think that he seized an opportunity to just kind of push the racism story off with a barge pole.
I don't know that the two can in any way be related. And I think if he didn't want that to be the story, he wouldn't have gone out before the game actually and addressed his shame at what had happened so much on the head. But I think what I want to say also about Chelsea, and it's something I was very aware of being at the club on Saturday at the game, and when you go to Stamford Bridge and you look at the area where, you know, people often misunderstand Chelsea. They think about it being a very, very fancy part of town, and Chelsea certainly has that part. But Stamford Bridge is built right along the side of the North End Road. It's also the place where, you know, a very, very large proportion of West Indian, Jamaican immigrants to Britain came in the post-war era. And it's a very sort of multicultural, very, historically working class part of London. You look at the people who work around the ground, who work at Chelsea, and then look at the players involved in the first team all the way through down the youth teams. This is a multicultural club in every single sense of the word. And so the feeling felt within Chelsea Football Club, say what you want, say they're Slytherin, say they're evil, talk about the billionaire Abramovich owner. This is a multicultural club. And you think about how these young players, that under-21 team, that under-18 team, who are almost entirely of African or Caribbean descent, must be awful for those players to feel part of this. And I think that reflects the deep shame and a sort of a whole feeling at this club this weekend that was just sort of like, and I think contributed to this incredibly poor performance and this sort of out of sorts performance at the weekend. It's felt deeply within the club what happened.
Well, let's talk about it, because Mourinho did go on his tour of English television on Sunday. He said if we're in a normal situation, it wouldn't be a 5-point gap, the lead at the top. It would be 12 points. I'm happy that I'm not stupid, and I understood everything a couple of months ago, he said, alluding to the conspiracy against Chelsea. If you tell me this story that started a couple of months ago, finished today, meaning the game, and we have 12 matches to play with an advantage of 5 points, I will tell you we will be champions, but I don't know if the story ends here or if there's more waiting for us.
Do you know the funniest thing about this? Is just imagine for 1 second, just suspend disbelief, Rog, and believe that there actually was a conspiracy, that we find out in a few years' time that, you know what, the refs, they just had it up to here with Mourinho. They just hated him. And so they did decide to conspire against him. Nobody would care. At this point, I think there would be a lot of people within the media and within football itself who would love a conspiracy against Chelsea. And if that stops them from winning the title, they'll be quite happy about it. We went through the moments on the show last night. There were moments, and I think there has been amongst the punditry, both former referees and former players, a lot of people have looked at those moments and said, yeah, you know what, Martin Atkinson had an absolutely terrible game, and we can go through the moments individually. But I think overall, the reason that they drew this game, the reason they didn't win 3 points against 19th place Burnley, had little to do with those moments, had more to do with their just incredibly unsyncopated performance through the rest of the match.
We'll talk about that, but I have to say, I want to go on the record and say I admire Jose Mourinho. I really do. I admire the way he's able to keep a straight face while doing all of this. I think it's unbelievable. I really do. I mean, he knows how well he's diverting the media's attention.
Do you think it's all fake?
From his team's inability to batter a cellar dweller, Burnley. Yeah. At the same time, he's able to claim the moral high ground, and he attacks the physical play of an opponent. If we can call him a player, he said of Barnes. This from a man, Jose Mourinho, who we've all seen sneakily eye gouge an opposing coach in Spain. And when Mikel, was it in 2013, he shattered Mikel Arteta's shin pad with a brutal tackle, and Arsene Wenger complained about the physicality of Mikel's play. He laughed in the press conference and said, oh, this is a man's game. So I mean, if there was a John Oliver of football, you could piece together this speech, this masterpiece speech from Jose Mourinho, and then litter in all of the footage from the past and make something which is truly fascinating. I mean, Mourinho,
as you could, by the way, against Arsene Wenger or any other manager who complains against any other referee's decision ever.
But this Mourinho feels it and he knows it, and his genius is his ability to work out between the final whistle and getting like a minute and a half later into that little press area where he addresses the cameras, getting so on message so brilliantly and working out how to corner, wrap up and entangle the entire media and make them dance to his tune.
See, I don't think it's all fake. I think you give him too much credit deliberately. I don't think it's all fake. I think that there is an element of that. But I think the larger thing is this is a viciously competitive man. This is a man who only knows one result. This is not a guy who's interested in finishing second, interested in finishing third. He wants to win. He expects to win. He's hired to win. That's what he's got used to. That's what he gets paid for. And he will do anything in the moment. And anything, whether it's eye gouging, whether it's working a ref, whether it's the way he inspires his team, whether it's the way he then protects his team and gets out in front of them and protects them from criticism, he'll do anything to go and win. And that's the way he sees it. And ultimately, he'll be judged on whether or not he's never going to win a popularity contest. He's going to be judged on whether or not he wins trophies. He's won a lot, and he'll be judged at Chelsea whether he wins more.
For the record, I think the Michael Kiteley handball was a penalty. I think Diego Costa has actually boxed himself into a Luis Suarez-esque kind of position where his propensity to flop makes refs automatically kind of side with the defender.
Well, the ref couldn't have seen his hand there. It was definitely taken over with the hand, but the ref couldn't have seen that.
Ashley Barnes is a proper nasty piece of work, and he should have received 2 yellows and have been long gone. But on that point, I'll say there's a list of Chelsea players that we could make together who've kind of mastered the dark arts. I remember Cahill stamping on a prone Harry Kane on the sideline. It's a long list. And other fans, I bet you when they watch this game, there's a real kind of rush of karma. Liverpool fans who saw the Cahill handball in the dying embers of that game not given by the referee. who watched Ivanovic choke out McCarthy. And secondly, as the Southampton game, which we will get to in detail also, 2 penalties which went against them, penalty calls in the first 4 minutes. The vast majority of refereeing is crap right now in football. It's not just the referees who oversee Chelsea games who are mucking up.
No, right. But it's also not... I wouldn't blame the referee for any of the decisions other than his failure to blow the whistle on the Ashley Barnes challenge. That's what really led, I think, to Matic running after Ashley Barnes, is he didn't even hear a whistle. There wasn't even a whistle. Martin Atkinson blew the whistle after he started running. That was the only thing I'd really criticise him for. We highlighted, we'll talk about it later in the Southampton-Liverpool game, the handball from Mignolet on the outside of the area. No referee can see from running behind the play whether he's a foot inside, a foot outside, a yard inside, a yard outside. The referees need more help if we're going to hold them to these kind of standards. If the managers are going to hold them to these kind of standards, they need a lot more help.
But your point's a massive one. Chelsea should have buried Burnley in the first half.
Of course, absolutely.
19th place Burnley. Yeah. They didn't do so. The game opened in a rote way. We've seen so many times, Davo, 40 minutes. I've seen this movie before.
Yeah.
Eden Hazard, breaking ankles, drawing in defenders.
Yeah, I mean, look, Eden Hazard, when you go to a game live, you immediately see who the best player on the pitch is. We've talked about it a lot before. He is head and shoulders, by the way, not above because he's tinier than everybody, but head and shoulders above every other player on the field. His ability to change pace from a standing start, and you look at him, and it's what we said about him during the World Cup, is he's a guy who you sort of watch and you think, when he chooses to go and run past a player and jink inside and jink back outside and go and do it, he could do it whenever he wants. Why doesn't he do it whenever he wants? He did that in the 14th minute, broke down the right side of the box. The play broke down from Cuadrado, delivered a fantastic pass into Ivanovic, who actually managed to use his right foot for a change. He can barely use his right foot right now. He literally got so bloodied up in that Capital One game against Liverpool. And he managed to score the goal. And from that point, you kind of thought it was all over.
By the way, the way Ivanovic, if you look at this goal, drifted into space, that is the instinct, and I said this on the show, of a world-class striker.
He is a better striker right now than he is a defender, I would say.
I mean, I see him, as I said on the show, a world-class striker who just loves to track back and to attack from deep. Yeah. 19 Premier League goals for the big Serb.
Amazing.
Which is just one away from Fernando Torres's Chelsea career tally. And at that point, you're watching the game. I actually flicked over to watch Manchester United. I thought, assume the position, Burnley. Yeah. Lads, you're done. But I imagine the Premier League has some kind of head game maker like Plutarch Heavensby. Mm-hmm. And this week, he had other ideas because Ashley Barnes was unfettered.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Ashley Barnes, there were some terrible challenges, and we don't really need to go much into those. But I would say that after going a goal down after 14 minutes, the way that Burnley responded, the way that their fans were over there in the shed end, tiny number of them, but just making so much noise, getting behind their team. It was wonderful to watch. And the way that the Burnley players reacted, they just harassed Chelsea all over the park. Chelsea were out of sorts from the kickoff. Passes being misplaced, Costa looking a little bit rough coming back from the suspension, Cesc still not looking right coming back from his injury. Passes misplaced, Cuadrado trying to get the pace of the Premier League, but Burnley just pressed them and harassed them and pressed them and harassed them, and they were fantastic, Rog.
Yeah, I mean, the game turned on the Barnes horror tackle, which, I mean, it was, if you look at it, he stuck his foot out, and then there was a second push when Matic had exposed his kind of inner ankle, and it was intended to maim. By the way, Matic, one of my sons told me very excitedly that there's Matic stickers all over Manhattan on cars. And I asked him to show me where. It turns out I've been looking at all the Mercedes with
for Matic.
Yeah, on the back.
For Matic.
Yeah, he thought all the owners of all of these Mercs all over New York City
that's
were
genius.
big Chelsea fans. But when the red card came, it's one of my guilty pleasures in football. Yeah. When a player tries to stop one of his teammates getting a red card by trying to hold the referee's hand down and prevent him pulling it from his pocket. One of these days, I'd love that strategy to work. If you speak to policemen, they tell you that if you're being shot, if someone holds a gun, is about to shoot you, no matter what you're holding, there's just a human need to hold it up. Yeah. They call it a phantom shield. In front of the gun to try and protect themselves, even if it's a piece of paper. Yeah. So it's unbelievable how many people hold up like a piece of paper as a desperate last attempt. That's what I thought. Ivanovic was like this fan, no, just throwing himself in front of the pull-up. As a Chelsea fan, do you think this Matic moment, this kind of rush of blood to the head, Could it be some kind of Stevie G slip, season-changing moment?
I don't think so. I mean, I think, look, at that point of the game, I don't think Chelsea were in any danger of losing the game, so it was somewhat frustrating. I think that Chelsea's problems, if they don't win the Premier League, it's going to be the same thing we've talked about before, which is that Mourinho has not rotated the squad very much, and they're very tired. And when he introduces new players, as he tried with Cuadrado this week, they are so not used to playing with the rest of this team. Look, he's got a problem now. Matic is out. Obi Mikel is injured. The only defensive midfielder he's got is Ruben Loftus-Cheek, who's had some substitute appearances for a minute or 2 minutes in a few games this year, but he's barely played. So he just doesn't have those players who can come off the bench, who can go and give this squad some respite. And he just doesn't have a lot of depth. You know, this is actually a game calling out for Andre Schürrle. And you sort of suddenly I felt myself missing the German, which it takes a lot for me to go and say. So I think these are going to be the problems that are going to go and affect Chelsea. I still think they've played the best football in the Premier League for the whole season. I would say, Rog, I don't believe that Chelsea's players are any more evil or any less evil than any other players in the Premier League. These are the same group of players. They all come from the same pool, and they go from one team to another and go and do it. Similarly, I don't think that Ashley Barnes is the most evil player in football. I think he made a really bad challenge. I think as a professional, he will regret having made that challenge. He'll regret doing something that will make him look that bad.
I doubt that, by the way. I think and this is fascinating, Simon Evans, the journalist, great follow on Twitter at SG
Even
Evans,
Joey Barton has remorse, Rog.
He said Jose's hysteria, he's a huge Burnley fan. He said Jose Mourinho's hysteria has influenced Burnley Football Club's fan culture. There will be no more Ginger Mourinho, which is what Deitch was always called, the Louis C.K. lookalike manager that they have. And he tweeted, Ashley Barnes has now become a firm fan favourite. I think he's become a cult hero for that club, because it did change the game. A massive, massive point for this club in the worst part of their season when Ben Mee rose to equalise. It was like watching Ralph Macchio beat up Johnny and his Cobra Kai gang. Paul Carr blew my mind. He said Chelsea has only allowed 4 set-piece goals this season. Yeah,
they've been terrific from corners.
Only Southampton and Newcastle
and they missed Matic at that corner. You know, very significantly missed Matic at that corner. They're trying to substitute Didier Drogba on right before that corner. Atkinson, I actually thought that was going to be one of Mourinho's key moments. Atkinson wouldn't allow the substitution of Drogba before the corner. And Mourinho was furious with the fourth official after the goal, of course. So, yes, a huge point for Burnley. They got, and got to give them credit. They went to the 2 top teams in the Premier League this season, came back from 1 goal against Chelsea to draw, came back from 2 goals against Manchester City to draw. Those might be, by the end of the season, 2 incredibly valuable points for that club. Okay, Rog. Southampton 0, Liverpool 2. Brendan Rodgers' men head to the South Coast and knock their own youth development team out of the top 4. 3 minutes in, a blistering Coutinho strike found Fraser Forster's top corner. Raheem Sterling added a second in the 73rd minute, but just as at Stamford Bridge, the major post-game talking point was the referee, Kevin Friend.
As you never get tired of me joking, Dave.
Yeah.
Southampton versus Southampton old timers.
Yes.
Oh, what a blood and thunder beginning to the game, though.
It was within 19 seconds, Rog.
Philip Jurek brought down in the penalty area by Emre Can.
Yeah, terrible weekend for Serbs, Rog.
Nothing given, though, Dave.
Yeah.
Should have been. And it would have been if his name was Harry Kane or Wayne Rooney.
Mm-hmm.
Liverpool then went down the other end. And Coutinho, I've only ever seen like Sebastian Janikowski do it, what he did, which was gob it from 40 yards. In the style that probably made Sports Centre producers look at each other and wonder why they don't see more goals like that. It was like a dunk. It was the dunk of soccer, that goal. Fraser Forster could have, should have, probably done better.
Yeah, you made a point on the TV show yesterday after Harry Kane, and we'll get to it, when he scores the penalty off the second chance rebound, it should only be half a goal. I think you should get an extra half goal for when you manage to hit one off the roof of the net or off the lower side of the crossbar. Just so satisfying to see a goal go in that way. Top corner.
The game essentially became a torrent of Southampton penalty decisions ignored. I loved Ryan Bertrand's tweet, which was instant. He tweeted at Ryan Bertrand 3, just tweeted minute 4 as Jurek was brought down again in the penalty area, this time by Joe Allen.
Yeah.
Kevin Friend, Davo.
Yeah.
He seemed to either bottle the big decisions or simply be on a one-man crusade to prove Chelsea are not the only team being screwed by referees.
Well, he just does not seem like a man who likes making decisions. It's the difference between referees and assistant referees. There's nothing that if you give a man a flag, it's the difference between giving a man a whistle and giving a man a flag. You know, he doesn't want to blow a whistle. It's much easier to make no decision.
Oh, he doesn't want to draw attention to himself.
But give an assistant referee a flag. They just want to wave it in the air.
I've got to say, referees in the English Premier League right now are becoming less arbiters of justice and more kind of wrestling heels.
Yeah.
They're inexplicably dark characters who just mete out one wrongdoing after another, and they unite all football fans in a sense of kind of aggrieved injustice. Wouldn't have shocked me in this game, Davo, if Kevin Friend had just kind of walked into the crowd, picked up a collapsible chair and hit an old lady over the back of the head.
Yeah.
It's an amazing time for I'd never heard of this organisation till today, the International Football Association Board. Yeah. Seems to be some redundancy in that name.
That would have involved Kevin Friend making quite a big decision, though, which there's no evidence that he'd ever make a decision like that.
They're meeting this weekend, Davo, and they're discussing the introduction of video technology, talking about having a fifth official watch video monitors. They've been doing that in Holland on a temporary basis. They've had a fifth official in a van watching games. I'd love to see this van. I imagine it being like some old Volkswagen.
Why is he in a van?
It will take 2 years, they reckon, for this kind of introduction. For me, it can't come quick enough.
Yeah. Strange decisions. Southampton can feel fairly hard done to, Rog, and yet Liverpool find a way to put the ball in the back of the net twice. The only unbeaten team in the Premier League in 2015, Rog, and kind of impressive the way that they've come back.
Yeah, I mean, this was not the greatest game. Southampton had all of the ball, but were very, very plodding. When it got into the final third, they huffed and they puffed. But Graziano Pellè looks like a man who desperately needs a vacation. Liverpool's defence, which has quietly put a run of 6 clean sheets together in the last 10 games after being a mockery for the first half of the season, were rarely troubled. By the way, I love watching Jordan Ibe. Yeah. Love him. Mm-hmm. I'd love it if the Liverpool fans started to sing "When Two Ibes Go to School" whenever he gets the ball. But with Sturridge on, Liverpool became more direct and they scored their second goal with what I think was just their third shot on target. Talking about targets, Matt Target picked a terrible time to do a Stevie G tribute by falling over inexplicably. Raheem Sterling slopped up the mess. And on British television, Noel Gallagher was on the match of the day. And he said of Brendan Rodgers, or the Brodge, as he called him, I love that name, the Brodge. He said, we thought the powers of the Brodge were waning. He probably said, we thought the powers of the Brodge were waning. But he's turning it around. And turning it around he is, Dave. As you watched him get soaked in the rain on the sideline, you realise what a massive result it was for this man and his massive ego. His team looked like they had buckled 3 months ago, that they were on their knees. And now they are so seriously locked on to that race of fourth. Brendan Rodgers, Brodge, his team's finished strongly. Of the 22 league defeats that they've suffered in the Brodge regime, only 4 have come between the months of January and May. And they've won 2 more points than any team in the league since January 1st, 2015. Yeah,
an amazing race for 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th in the league, Rog. Just more exciting, really, than the race for 1st or 2nd, which definitely heated up this weekend as well.
God, I've got to say a word for Southampton fans. This was cruel for them. Their team are starting to show signs of strain. Since they won at Old Trafford, they've exited the FA Cup. They've been John Joe Shelvied by Swansea. They crept past Queen's Park Raisins, were smothered by West Ham, and now undone by Liverpool. They're starting to remind me of a German word that I learned this holiday for the fat you put on when you're grieving a loss, a death, or a broken relationship.
Germans have got a word for everything, Rog.
Kummerspeck.
Kummerspeck.
Grief bacon.
Yeah. I love that, Rog. And talking of grief bacon, Manchester City 5, Newcastle 0, a game that should help John Carver's quest to become Newcastle manager about as much as hopping in a tank helped Michael Dukakis' 1988 presidential campaign. Goals from Aguero, Nasri, Dzeko, and 2 from David Silva bring the citizens 5 points behind Chelsea, Rog.
Yeah, I mean, a bare-bottom thrashing,
yeah,
if there ever was one. Narrative paradigm suggested the game could go one of 2 ways after Chelsea stumbled.
Yeah.
it could have been Chelsea offer City an opportunity. City completely and utterly throw that opportunity out the window. Or City go all Scarface on Newcastle.
Yeah.
And the suspense lasted exactly 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Vernon Anita tripped Edin Dzeko. I think the referee must have thought Edin Dzeko was English momentarily because he gave the penalty. It became 2 within 12 minutes. Samir Nasri scooped the ball beautifully into the net. He looks like he's taken a photo of Graziano Pele into his barbers.
Yeah.
And with Yaya Toure back from the African Cup of Nations with his winner's medal, Newcastle didn't know what hit them. Probably because I'm pretty sure that watch out for Edin Dzeko was probably not mentioned much in their pre-game tactical talk.
Yeah, and Edin Dzeko, fantastic game. His movement, his just decision-making throughout the game. You know, I've always sensed a phenomenal disregard and disrespect for the Bosnians' qualities. But as a Premier League striker, late in the season, he's just perfect for this league.
You know, the British writer Jonathan Wilson says about Edin Dzeko, he can never tell whether Edin Dzeko is a terrible player with moments of greatness or a great player with moments of terribleness.
Yeah.
Which I think is a beautiful way to describe him. Talking about terrible, Newcastle were less a football team, more like unidentified, uncredited cannon fodder in a World War II movie. City now host Liverpool on Sunday.
Oh, I can't wait for that game.
It is the weekend's biggest game. No disrespect to the League Cup final, David.
Yeah.
But I believe their season will depend on how Wilfred Boney and Aguero can link up, how quickly they can forge a relationship and batter all comers. I've got to tell you, I think Liverpool will fancy their chances right now.
Yeah, well, Manchester City are a team. They look so good when they're good, and they look so poor when they're not. They're just... Whereas I would even say Chelsea's highs and their lows, they're not so far apart. As poor as Chelsea's performance was against Burnley this weekend, you know, a few different moments and they win it and nobody's talking about it. Chelsea haven't astounded at any point this season. They've just been more consistent than anybody else. Manchester City go from these enormous highs to these just terrible performances, one week to the next. And we'll have to see what they can do against Liverpool.
Talking about complicated performances by teams from Manchester.
Yeah. Swansea 2, Manchester United 1. Louis van Gaal loses his first game of the Chinese New Year with the game tied in the Chinese New Year with the game tied in the 73rd minute. I've just remembered.
It's the year of the goat.
Year of the goat. John Joe Shelvey unleashed a long-range effort that glanced off Bafétimbi Gomis and passed David De Gea, amazing aim, and dropping United to 4th place behind Arsenal, Rog.
Yeah, at Dante Florence tweeted us, Man United's trip to Swansea is their first competitive game outside of England since Bayern Munich last April. It's their European adventure. And the Louis van Gaal regime continues to seem roughly as healthy as Isis, the dog in Downton Abbey.
They're killing him off slowly. So sad for that dog.
That was a spoiler alert, by the way. For those of you who are wrapped up in Isis, the dog's narrative.
In season 1.
Swansea City recorded their first ever home and away double over Manchester United. Congratulations, Gary Monk. If Alanis Morissette were a United fan, David, she might have had a song for this loss. Because this team have won so often this season without impressing. And they lost here, despite unfurling some of the most dominant attacking football I've seen in a couple of months. Anders Herrera, the mysteriously peripheral figure, continues to impress, open the scoring, his 3rd successive start with a goal.
No, and has stated his ambition to go and be Paul Scholes for Manchester United. He's going to really have to get much worse at tackling to go and pull that off, Rog.
And a little squeak here. Swansea responded within 2 minutes. John Joe Shelvey curling a delicious ball for Key to finish. And then United began to batter their opponents in search of a winner. When that occurs against Swansea, what could be more predictable in football than a long-range strike from Jay Shelvey?
Deflected.
Against the runner play. Yeah, he meant that, Dave, off Gomes, sitting there flat-footed. De Gea. I have to say, Shelvey is one of the Premier League's joys. I adore watching him.
He's English Dzeko.
He's one of the great. Now, there's no doubt he's a crap player. There's no doubt whatsoever.
But he has these moments. He has game-winning moments of greatness, Rog.
He's so frustrating to watch for much of the game if you're a Swansea fan. His speed is tepid. His decision-making is beyond erratic. But in brief moments, Dave, and if you watch the second goal, he like trots forward. It's like there's a moment if you watch it in slow motion where you can see his mind go, can I be arsed going forward for this? And he doesn't. The ball's breaking and he's just walking, and then he trots a bit, and then he gets the ball. And there's a second where, and I'm convinced that in brief moments he's got this superhero power, where he can make himself believe that his bald head turns him into Zinedine Zidane.
Yeah.
And he can, as he did against Southampton, just turn a game on his head.
Do you know what I'm picturing the whole time you're talking, though? I'm picturing John Joe Shelby in an Everton shirt. I'm picturing how much you'll love him when he ends up at Everton.
He's like the Dennis Rodman. You hate him until he comes on your team. I do adore that man. In terms of United, I don't think they can be summed up any more poignantly than Gary Neville, their former talisman, wrote this weekend.
The time has come for Manchester United fans, me included, to let go of the Sir Alex Ferguson reign and stop judging this new era by former glories. It's a bit like breaking up with a partner of 26 years and wanting the new person to be the same as the old one. We are going to have to let go. The idea of referencing Ferguson or saying it's not the Manchester United way at every turn stylistically is not going to take Manchester United anywhere. Well said. Well written. Back down in London, Rog, Palace 1, Arsenal 2. A goal apiece for one of the Premier League's most prolific small-tall combos. Santi Cazorla and Olivier Giroud sent Arsenal into third place, 1 point ahead of Manchester United. Quite refreshing to hear Arsenal's manager, Arsene Wenger, after the game admit that probably a fair result would have been the draw, Rog.
Yeah, he said his side switched off towards the end. They were ambling to victory. But then Palace made it interesting in the dying moments. Super Alan Pardew. I think that nickname is probably one of the more short-lived in English football. Palace, their form has dropped precipitously in the past 4 games.
Yeah.
But the game was won by Olivier Giroud, who scored his 50th Arsenal goal in just 116 games, causing John Motson, the English commentator, to declare, he's not just a pretty face. But he kind of is, Dave. He was just crowned by an English bookmaker who did a study by showing English Premier League players to American women who didn't know anything about soccer.
Yeah.
They asked these American women to name the best-looking 11, and Olivier Giroud got a trophy for being perceived as the best-looking man in the Premier League. Interestingly, Burnley, Davo, topped the overall league of attractiveness.
Wow.
American women said they got the hottest team overall.
Wow.
Which I find kind of shocking. The best team included Olivier Giroud, Schneiderlin, and Jesus Navas, those gorgeous eyes. They all made the team. Oddly, so did Paul Konchesky. Who would you pick as the best-looking player in the Premier League? Or the player you wish you looked like? How's that?
Well, Yaya, without a doubt. I'd get in everywhere. I've always thought that James Tompkins, who plays for West Ham, I think he's a good-looking boy until he opens his mouth. But
that's what people say about me.
Yeah. Trying to think who else I think's good looking.
If I could be any player in the Premier League from a looks perspective.
Yeah, Naismith. Hibbo.
No, I'd say Juan Mata.
Yeah.
I think he's phenomenal looking. I think he's gorgeous.
He should have played Paddington, actually. He'd have been a very good
I think
Paddington.
Juan Mata is a stunning looking human. I think Sylvain Distin is absolutely gorgeous. Probably have them first equal.
Yeah.
And then, as you guessed, I'd have Stevie Naismith as my bit of rough on the side.
I knew you'd like that. Tottenham 2, West Ham 2. Harry Kane's Ballon d'Or campaign continues as Spurs salvage a point at White Hart Lane, trailing 2-0 with 9 minutes left. Danny Rose pulled one back for Tottenham, and in injury time, Harry Kane went down inside the box under the weight of an Alex Song challenge. After having his penalty saved, Kane knocked in the rebound to steal a point.
Under the kind of proximate...
Implied gravitational force.
The idea.
Yeah, of the weight of an Alex Song challenge.
The putative theoretical notion of an Alex Song challenge. Odd game. Spurs began imperiously, knocking the ball around with imagination and London verve. And then they crumpled once West Ham got out of first gear. They pressed, they harried, they denied Spurs space. Dembele and Lamela morphed into liabilities. And West Ham's game plan seemed to be, let's just encourage Spurs to self-destruct. You can, the pleasure of this game was listening to the microphones pick up the Spurs fans as they got more and more concerned. You could hear them screaming at poor Andros Townsend, "Two Bob, come on, Two Bob," which is Cockney rhyming slang, "Two Bob bit." Insert rhyming swear word right there. And West Ham seemed to be in complete cruise control, but Danny Rose got Spurs back into the game. And once he did, Was there any doubt how this game would end, David?
Oh, God, I mean, the scriptwriters had it right. You've got to get Harry Kane into the fray. And the penalty miss and the rebound off the miss was a really nice touch.
Yeah, English Jeremy Lin came to the rescue once more, even though West Ham appeared oblivious to the fact that they are contractually obliged to let Kane score. First, he shamelessly dived for a penalty. Irvin Welsh, a huge West Ham fan and a wonderful follow on Twitter, wrote, "Somebody touching your back doesn't cause your legs to shoot out from under you in any walk of life other than football," which is so beautifully true. Kane missed the penalty, then he swept home the rebound. 7 goals in the 8 London derbies in which he started. What a way to mask a diabolical team performance. Spurs have now taken 16 points from losing positions, which is admirable and unbelievable, but cruel, so cruel for West Ham fans, David.
Yeah, very, very cruel, but sets up an amazing Capital One Cup final at the weekend, Rog.
Yeah, and the fans, I'm not sure how up for it they are. At EWF423 summed up how many Spurs fans felt when they pulled back that point. "My sad nap will now turn into a mildly contented nap." I loved, and many of you are lip readers, alerted us to this fact, how Harry Kane, as he walked around the field in the post-match, screamed at the cameras, "Never give up," which I think sums up the key difference between Spurs this season and last in attitude perspective. But I feel for Sam Allardyce, Dave. I feel for the man. Spectacular start to the season for him. West Ham have now spluttered to 1 win, 4 draws, 3 losses. List of potential new managers is being bandied around. Frank Rijkaard, Slavan Bilic, Marcelo Bielsa. I would love that.
Yeah.
And La Liga's David Moyes.
Yeah.
Talking.
David Moyes.
David Moyes.
Yeah.
But he'd have to work on his English.
Yeah.
He was 5 seconds from a famous victory, a narrative-changing victory for him professionally. Then he was denied. Afterwards, he was asked if the whistle should have gone immediately after Adrian's save, David, because the referee said there were 5 seconds left in the game when the penalty was taken.
Yeah.
They asked him, once Adrian saved the penalty, should the final whistle have gone, which would have been a very brave piece of refereeing.
Yeah.
He said, the answer is yes, but we're doing it like the NFL now, aren't we?
What does that mean?
He means that the clock stops all the time.
Oh,
and you can literally get down to 0.3, 0.1 seconds.
Yeah.
Poor old Sam.
Yeah, poor Sam Allardyce. In other games, Rog, Hull City 2, Queen's Park Raisins 1, an 89th minute goal from transfer deadline day signing Darman Ndoye sends the Tigers past a 10-man Queen's Park Raisins. Raisins captain Joey Barton, Rod, saw his run of 7 consecutive games with a yellow card come to an end when he received a straight red card for attempting to hit Tom Huddleston in his nether regions.
Yeah, Tom Huddleston, credit to him afterwards, trying to play down the whole incident, which was beautiful to watch. He said, being punched in the balls is something people do dozens of times to me in the week in training. It's just messing about.
Yeah.
Which makes Premier League locker rooms sound like 4th grade summer camp bunks rife with wedgies.
Yeah.
Joey Barton, afterwards, Charlie Austin said, his own teammate said, there's only so many times you can say sorry.
Yeah, he said he was gutted. But it was actually Tom Huddleston who got gutted. It wasn't Joey Barton who
He's
got
a
gutted.
disgrace to that throwback Morrissey haircut, Dave. He really is.
Villa 1. Oh, Villa what? Villa 1, Stoke City 2. New Villa manager Tim Sherwood's side surrenders a 1-0 lead in his home debut. Villa drops to 19th in the table.
Yeah, Tim Sherwood's just signed that contract until 2018. Villa optimistically called him one of England football's most highly sought-after managers. He's a passionate man, Dave. He's a great man manager, apparently. Tactics, not so much. Watching him go in 90 minutes from chirpy, cockney chappy...
No, we saw all the emotions.
...to defeated, isolated, guilt-ridden, vulnerable, bargaining with a higher power, Premier League management, in treatment. It was the psychological transformation of the weekend.
Yeah, it was wonderful.
There's a great tweet that someone sent that said... In the post-match press conference, he looked like the father of a missing child, where you can just tell that he was the one who did it.
Oh, that's awful. Sunderland 0, West Brom 0, a turgid affair between two teams fighting for Premier League survival. The second half saw just one shot on target between the two teams, Rog. And Everton 2, Leicester 2, Rog. An 88th minute own goal from Leicester's Matthew Upson. Remember him, rescues a point for the Toffees at Goodison. Rog, your feelings?
Numbness, darkness. I feel heavier than a John Berryman poem. When I was with Roberto He sighed when he told me Everton play so well in the Europa League because they feel none of the pressure that they do in the Premier League. And Exhibit A would be this week when they destroyed Young Boys. God, Americans love that team. They love that they play at Wankdorf Stadium. But Everton seem to love playing on artificial turf. And then they come back and they play lacklustre, aimless football against bottom of the table Leicester, who, to be candid, played Everton with no fear whatsoever. And for me, Everton's form, and possibly the saddest part of my season, is watching the deterioration of Ross Barkley. It's like Vanessa Hudgens, Dave. Someone had it, and then they lost it. 1 minute, they're in High School Musical, they're massive. The next, we only hear about him when he leaks nudes.
What else is going on in footballing terms? You talk about the lack of confidence, you talk about the Ross Barkley. What else is going on with Everton? This is not a team who just, for one season, were good and now they've stepped back. This has been a team who've been so good season after season after season. There must be something else going on in football in terms of this team.
The Europa League, statistically, buries teams like Everton, just stretches their resources, makes them play on a Thursday and throws them out of their cycle where they're then playing up against a weekend, and it just exhausts the squad that's so slender. But the two big problems at this weekend were at both ends of the field. Romelu Lukaku. Yeah. If Ivanovic is a striker pretending to be a defender, Romelu Lukaku is Ivanovic in reverse. He had 9 shots against Leicester. None of them were on target. Even when it looked like he'd scored in the 88th minute, he'd actually bungled his header and it banked in off the defender's head. And the other one, and it pains me to say this, Tim Howard, who won't watch the game with happy eyes. For both goals, he had a key role in. And Robles had clean sheet after clean sheet when Tim Howard was injured. I think many Everton fans are starting to feel Tim Howard's days as the automatic number one should be over. And the fact that Martinez keeps selecting him is undermining people's confidence in Roberto's decision-making. And I'd say, sadly, if Tim Howard does go to the bench, it's going to be what you would call, Davo, a massive Venderpunk for masses of American fans who became Evertonians because of Tim Howard.
Yeah, huge game this weekend against Arsenal.
Oh, I'm not in the face, Davo. Yeah, and in this one, own goal turned out to be Everton's Harry Kane. 1 win in 10 league games for Everton. Their last win at home was December the 15th. And at Oily Sailor, the Opta statistician, tweeted, winning the Europa League and getting relegated in the same season, meaning Everton would be in a championship club playing in the Champions League, would be peak Roberto Martinez.
OK, Rog, enough of all that. Pack your long johns. A FIFA task force has recommended playing the 2022 Qatar World Cup in November and December. It's just a recommendation, Rog, to avoid sweltering temperatures. FIFA's Vice President Jim Boyce called the recommendation common sense, Rog. It's common sense.
Yeah. It's a decision that's expected to be ratified by FIFA's executive committee.
Really? Expected to be?
I'll be honest, Dave. Champions League football is completely trumps the World Cup for quality. We know that already. And it will increasingly do so between now and 2022. I've got to be honest, this whole we can do whatever we want with the World Cup and everyone will just keep watching. I fear that FIFA do not know that they can actually degrade the integrity of their own tournament, which they think is absolutely impermeable to any damage, to any brand damage, and will always reign supreme with this move. From a US perspective, anyway, it's right in the belly of NFL playoff season, but it's going to be a ratings buster on Fox Sports too, right?
Yeah.
Fox don't care, though. They've got theirs. They've got theirs.
And in compensation, they've got the rights to the 2026 World Cup pretty clearly. But I think you're absolutely right. It's not just the 2022 World Cup that's got a problem. 2018 is a huge problem also. I've already had a psychic prediction. It was pie-related, Rog. But I have a feeling that the 2018 World Cup is going to be compromised. If political tensions continue, I could easily see England, OK, they wouldn't affect anything, but perhaps the USA thinking of boycotting the 2018 World Cup. FIFA could lose the credibility of that tournament very, very quickly.
Yeah, Fox, as we say, they've got theirs in an unexpected announcement. Let's just say that FIFA awarded Fox Sports and Telemundo the broadcast rights to the 2026 World Cup, which I think is either going to be in ISIS-controlled Syria or America. One or the other, David.
We'll see.
World Cup USA 2026 is actually now only 4,130 days away, I think. Yeah. Because I will bet the fact that they've given it to Fox also means they've given it a nudge and a wink and that the tournament will be held here. It gives me the tingling. I can't wait. Thank you, Fox.
Okay, we're going to do something a little different right now, Rog. We're going to record our interview with John Oliver in the Panic Room.
Okay, our guest today, Rog, is a writer, comedian, television host. He's
More than
so
that.
good on HBO's Last Week Tonight. He single-handedly makes up for the damage that you and I are doing, Rog, to the reputation of British TV personalities in America. Almost. We welcome to the Panic Room the one and only John Oliver. Welcome, John Oliver.
It's a pleasure, gentlemen.
John Oliver, we love your show. We tell ourselves it's like Downton Abbey in the present with only one character.
Yeah.
Which is why it's must-see television.
That was the one-line pitch I had for him. Downton Abbey, in the present, one character, all the class tension in one human being.
Wow.
An internal civil war.
Wow.
It's like having Isis the dog in the studio
Oh,
live.
they're killing
That's
him
what
off
I'm
so
telling you.
slowly, I
know,
can't
it's
handle it,
painful.
Rog.
All I'll tell you is, when we last had you on,
Yeah.
which seems like yesterday,
Yeah,
on the pod, it was actually a year and a half ago.
it was.
I'll say the Brendan Rodgers revolution had
Yeah.
not quite taken hold yet.
Well, there's been some ebbs and flows with that revolution. It's been very much like Russia.
Take us through every moment.
I'll tell you, you said the following.
Yeah.
I've given up expecting or needing to win the league
Yep.
as my days on this earth become shorter. I don't need trophies. This is like John Berryman talking
That
about
was bleak,
football.
wasn't it? That was a bleak time of my life.
I don't need top 4 finishes. I just need some nice passing sequences. 15 minutes coveting the ball. Is that too much to ask?
Yep.
In this Jordan Ebe, no, he's pronouncing it wrong. Raheem Sterling, Daniel Sturridge era. How are you feeling now?
You know what? I'm happy.
Updated.
I'm happy because I still don't need trophies, which is just as well because we gave that one away last year. But yeah, I'm happy. This is what I wanted. I wanted a midfield that could play together, and I've got it.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, the retirement of Jamie Carragher helped keep the ball. Because it's hard to keep the ball when it's
you're
flying
constantly
over your head. And look, no one could throw himself in front of a fast-moving round thing better than Jamie Carragher.
He was amazing at
Clint Eastwood in The Line of
He
Fire.
was great.
Yeah.
He really was. He was like
Yeah.
he was like a sporting bodyguard.
Yeah.
He would take one to the face for the team. The problem was his feet. That
Yeah.
was the problem. He had Achilles' feet.
Football's a game where feet are generally overrated.
Overrated. But Brendan Rodgers himself has been through some ebbs and flows.
Yep.
Lost some weight. Had his teeth done.
New teeth, new girlfriend,
Yeah,
new tan,
hair looking better.
new
wardrobe.
wardrobe.
Dresses.
Lots new arm movements.
Yeah, that's right. He's very stiff now.
Yeah.
He's very robotic.
Yeah.
But I'm in with him. I was in from day one. I hope we have him for 20 years. I hope he retires in Liverpool. And again, we don't need to win anything. All we need to win is the FA Cup on Stevie Gerrard's birthday. Wow. That's it. So I've said I didn't need trophies. I need that
one trophy
on his birthday. That's the way to go out before we put him out to stud in Los
He's
Angeles.
just 42.
Wow. Is that breaking news? Stevie Gerrard's going out to stud
I'm
in Los
hoping
Angeles.
so.
Okay,
no,
wow.
No, by the way, he meant
Whoa.
Brendan Rodgers is going out to stud in Los
good.
Angeles.
Wow, more likely.
42.
Yeah.
He's from County Antrim.
Mm-hmm.
He acts, he's a tiny, like one part Mussolini, one part Riccardo Montalban.
I was going to say he's one part Mussolini and another part Mussolini and 2 more parts Mussolini. That's what he is.
He's got a bit of Copperfield. He's got a bit of Copperfield as well.
Yeah, do you
A little David Copperfield.
Yeah, the magic trick, the 3 envelopes, the
Oh, I
things
guess
that-
so. I was thinking more that, like Copperfield, you feel slightly unsettled being around him. You think, what's the whole story here? Do you know what? I don't want to know.
Copperfield from Dickens.
No, way too literary, Rog, for me. You really should know by now.
I need you to explain one more thing we just touched upon.
Yeah.
You're in the entertainment industry. You're killing the entertainment industry. Hollywood is down here. John Oliver, Johnny O up here.
Under your boot.
Stevie G about to arrive in Hollywood.
Yeah.
You know
Yeah.
Stevie G. You know his type. What advice would you have, because Stevie G watches this show, what advice would you have for Stevie G before he takes Hollywood?
It's try and get out of that deal. I don't know why or how you signed it, but
With a pen in his mouth.
it's so
I think like
heartbreaking. This is not the way for
I
it
think
to
like
end.
this. Stevie G.
Find someone to put a pillow over your face, because that is the dignified way out. I don't mind seeing Frank Lampard do whatever Frank Lampard's going to do out here. I really
With the
mind seeing
Trenton
Stevie
Thunder.
G do it.
Yeah, with the
Los
Galaxy.
Angeles Galaxy. Not
Where
used.
an Englishman
Ep2
has
Stevie.
already played.
Oh, it's so sad.
Yeah.
It's
Sloppy
so sad.
seconds.
The
is that what
weather.
you're saying?
Well, it is a little bit. It
Well,
is a
that's
little
it. You
bit.
see, Beckham, it made sense. You think, oh, he's going to thrive in Hollywood. Stevie
Yeah.
G's not going to know. He's going to be walking around and go, sushi? What? Sushi?
That's one of his midfield teammates.
What? You're not going to cook it? I don't know about this place, you know.
Yeah.
Sushi.
So Liverpool, you want an FA Cup victory on Stevie G's birthday?
Yeah, it's what he deserves it. He deserves to go out that way.
Yeah.
Lifting the cup over his head. I would cry.
So
I've not
I'd like
cried
to go
since
out.
I was 3.
Let me ask you this. Take you back in the
Yeah.
George Michael Sports Machine. Ka-chow!
Yeah.
To this weekend, Coutinho. He's trembling past halfway line.
Wizard.
He sees the goal.
Little wizard.
He's a wizard.
He says, I'm gonna
have a go.
I'm gonna thrust this ball forward with my salmon cannon.
Yeah.
That's right. I'm going to hit this as hard as I can.
With my
I'm gonna
salmon
hope for the
cannon.
best.
What noise came out of your mouth when he thrust the ball with his salmon cannon?
I'll tell you what noise came out. You little beauty! I love him. I've got a little Philip Coutinho on my desk.
Yeah.
I've got a little,
Yeah.
big head, little body Philip Coutinho.
Not much difference than the
life
real
size.
Norman
Not much
It's
difference
Coutinho.
life
because he's
size
got a pretty chunky head.
a life
He's not in
size Philip
proportion.
Coutinho.
It's just one of the things I love about him.
Thank you,
His
Madam
vision.
Two Swords. When
His
you
size,
when you
great.
get to be as big as John Oliver, Madam Two Swords give you a life-size Philip Coutinho for your desk.
I would love a life-size Philip Coutinho.
We'll see what we can do.
I would love it.
I posited a theory today on the pod that perhaps if you Rog said that when Harry Kane scored that last-second penalty off the rebound for Tottenham,
Man, by the way, Lionel Messi, not so much
it should
today.
only be worth half a goal.
Oh,
Because
that's
it's a
interesting.
rebound off a penalty. I think that if you hit the crossbar before it goes into the back of the net, you should get an extra half goal.
Oh,
1.5 goals for that.
Absolutely. It's
Yeah.
always, or to be honest, I've always felt,
the
when
roof
we
of
used
the
to play
net.
football, I always felt hitting the crossbar better than scoring, isn't it? It's like if you hit the crossbar and it bounces down and out, it's better than a goal. It looks so great.
This is the birth of John Oliver's
better
political
than scoring.
awareness. When the ball hits the goal, it's better than scoring.
Better than
God,
scoring,
come on,
mate.
the man. Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
It didn't begin well this season for you. You're a bit cocky now, John Oliver. But
Yeah.
at the beginning of the season,
Yeah, it's
it was
bad.
it was a bit tragedy in terms of comedy. And who arrived as the symbol of that tragic comedy? Mario Balotelli.
Yeah.
When we
Mario,
first
well,
had you
he's-
on the podcast, that's all you wanted to talk about. The guy was constipated in front of goal at the beginning. His body is 97% made of ego, which is commonly known as fact. And even when he scores a penalty for Liverpool, it's under scrutiny. My patch has fallen off again. If he had an aftershave, that would be called. It would probably be called controversy.
No, it would be
by
called Mario Balotelli
Balotelli.
because everything's about him.
Yeah. As a Liverpool fan, how did you feel when he arrived, and how do you feel now?
Well, because I have hope in my heart, I thought Brendan, the
He
little
sees something.
Mussolini,
He sees
he's going to be the
something.
one to he'll work. Obviously, that was never going to happen. Balotelli's
my
best
patch.
moment so far this year was falling over when through on goal. I can't remember who it was.
Well,
against.
repeatedly, I think you've got several choices for
And
that.
then, but then he pounded like a 3-year-old toddler.
Yeah.
He pounded his fists into the ground
Yeah,
and
we
Diego
played
he
that.
waved his legs in the air while he was doing it.
Oh, that's a good move.
It was the perfect tantrum for a grown man. A grown adult man pounding his fists into the grass because
Respect.
things hadn't gone his way.
is that what you're saying? Respect.
Well, I'm saying that if you can't win a game, at least lose with some flair.
Yeah.
And that's what Balotelli will get you.
That was the physical
American.
manifestation, though, of why always me.
Well, yeah, I just think like if let's say you're 3-0 down,
Yeah.
you're not the game's gone.
Yeah.
You got 15 minutes left. Get Mario on. The fans have travelled. They want to see something, and you don't know what you're going to get. What you're not going to get is a goal.
Yeah.
But you're going to get a lot of things around not
Circus.
getting a goal.
Cake. Circus.
It's like the Harlem
Cake.
Globetrotters when Meadowlark Lemon goes
It
with
really is.
that bucket of water and it's the confetti. It's
Absolutely.
perfect.
This is hard-hitting stuff. Let me
Yeah.
take to the other big polemic for
Yeah.
Liverpool fans.
Yeah.
Stevie G. Pillow on the face. You need a new captain.
Yeah.
I'm finding the treatment of Jordan Henderson. Jordan trying desperately to be captain.
Yeah.
Brendan with the old carrot and the lash. I think Jordan's a great captain. Might not be Jordan.
Yeah.
Jordan's the next captain. There's many other candidates. Hopefully Mario.
That would be amazing.
Do you not just go Martin Skirl?
You
Death Eater.
I think deep down, Rodgers still wants John Joe Shelby to be captain.
He loves the man. He
I
does
mean,
love
he
him.
knows he's not
I
a player.
mean,
He loves him.
Oh, he loves him.
He sees
loves
something
him.
in that guy.
I've never seen two men love each other more.
So I think he might make a Swansea player Liverpool captain.
Well, but keep him at Swansea.
Keep him at
Keep him
Swansea.
at Swansea.
Keep him at Swansea. But I think he's going to be Liverpool captain because he loves the guy.
Oh, he loves him deeply.
That's how you motivate your own squad.
That's
Yeah.
right. And just say, hey, our captain's playing down. in Southampton today.
In another country.
He's going to Skype the team talk in.
Okay, hard-hitting, serious stuff now. You're playing Manchester City this weekend. Look into the John Oliver crystal ball.
Come on, Liverpool.
Talk us through the game. What predictions? Hard-hitting.
It's a game of good against evil. Because Liverpool play football the right way, which is spending fractionally less money than Manchester City did.
Fractionally.
Fractionally less.
Yeah, okay.
I hope this is a huge game. The Southampton game was massive, classic 6-pointer.
Yeah.
This is another 6-pointer, which means that's back-to-back 12-pointers.
Yeah.
That's basic mathematics.
Yeah, that's worth 36 points, I think. It's exponential. Oh, no, 144. Sorry, what am I doing?
Really, it would be sensational for the team if they pull this one off.
In your analysis of good and evil, where do Burnley fit in? Are they the Karaites of the world religion?
Yeah.
I guess, but that is a profound question. Where do Burnley fit in to good and evil? I guess
Are they on that plane? Are they even involved? Do we need to play Dr. Spock like a three-dimensional chess at that point?
I think you do, and I think Burnley, they're a floater, aren't they? They can go either way.
So funny, because by the way, this is foreshadowing. There'll be another mention of floaties in a minute. But keep going.
Well,
spoiler
that's good.
alert.
That's good foreshadowing.
Or enhancer alert.
Can you forward me again?
Yeah.
How do you feel Liverpool at season's end? Your dream scenario, John Oliver, the dark scenario.
Well, I think it's going to end pretty well. Things were a little worrying for a while there, but some of these young players are really starting to look good. Emre Can, he might be a player. Emre Can.
Well, more than a player, fantastic defender.
Fantastic defender, and he is not bad to look at on the ball.
No.
As well, in terms of a handsome, solid man.
He's like a non-English John Flanagan.
Yeah, Jordan Ibe. He's exciting.
The opposite. He's the physical opposite of John Flanagan.
I miss Flanagan's mole, though. I miss his mole. His mole. We need it. We need his mole back.
He's good for the game,
He is
John
really
Flanagan.
good. And his mole.
He's
They're very good.
No, he's been fantastic. Obviously, Jordan Ibe. Derby fans have been saying he is the future for months. He's been very exciting. Raheem Sterling. If he can just decide to have vacations at vacation time.
That's not easy to figure out.
It's just about planning your year out. I think someone needs to sit down with him and say, "No, that's blocked out, Raheem, because you're a professional footballer, so you need to do your job then. But look at these months in the middle. Why don't we'll go to a beach then."
Yeah, exactly.
Don't turn the whole team against you, Raheem.
Just take the ones starting in J. Let's just do those ones. Let's go and do that.
Question from one of our listeners, Adam Fullerton. Liverpool FC and SpaceX Geckos are both projected into space. We know how you feel about both. Who would you save?
Liverpool FC or SpaceX Geckos?
Yeah.
Liverpool FC. Liverpool FC.
Okay.
He's a controversial, always going against the grain.
Okay, talking about controversial, can we change subject now?
Yeah.
Can we talk about FIFA?
Oh.
Big news today. A FIFA Executive Committee recommended...
Oh, the FIFA Executive Committee. That is one of the worst phrases in the English language. A FIFA Executive Committee. Your instinct is how many people died?
Immediately. Well, anyway, a FIFA Executive Committee made just a recommendation today. It was only a recommendation. It's not likely to carry any weight.
No.
To
just a
another FIFA Executive Committee
Right.
that the 2022 Qatar World Cup be moved to November, December.
Correct.
What are your feelings about
By the way,
this?
which is when Raheem's having his holiday.
Exactly, it's terrible
Very bad
timing.
timing for Raheem. Very bad timing. Because he's already
booked
his eye on a timeshare in Torquay.
This guy's 18 to 30.
He's got an English Riviera. I love it. He's got a Torquay now.
Well, FIFA never lose their capacity to disappoint, do they? And they've managed to give the World Cup to Qatar and then they've found ways to make it worse after the fact. Because normally you just swallow an appalling decision and then your body processes it.
Yeah.
That's the American way.
They're going to find ways
Double
to make
down.
it.
Double down on that.
We are going to have 7 years of pain in the run-up to that. What a mess.
I mean, you deal in skullduggery. You deal in lack of transparency, corruption. It's your trade. You did a beautiful piece on FIFA. Anyone that's not seen John Oliver on FIFA, you called FIFA comically grotesque.
Yeah.
You compared it to 2 girls, 1 cup.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you explain or understand Sepp Blatter?
They're like a
Someone
drug
so
cartel
brazen, so
without
craven,
the
yet he's
skills
taken
to move drugs. At least a
So
drug cartel
you
have a
think.
kind of intellectual honesty. We think, oh, there's a tangible skill at work here. You have to take something that's illegal. They're just international racketeers selling nothing.
What's it going to take to remove? He is a floaty. That's a word.
Oh, that
he's
yes,
like
you're
a
going to bring it
floaty.
back.
He's a floaty.
Yeah.
That you can't get rid
He's a
of.
moral Highlander.
What will it take for us? What will it take for us to get rid of this bloke once and for all? I want to start that conversation now.
To get rid of Sepp Blatter,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it cannot be done. Because I don't think death can take him.
It wouldn't stake. wouldn't work.
Wouldn't stake. No, there's no way you can't.
Death won't hold.
No, I'm not 100% sure that he didn't die in the 1700s sometime.
Who will rid me of this turbulent priest?
Yeah, I think we're dealing with a spectre there, a spectre of doom,
Here's
not
what
a human being.
Robin Williams, during the draw for the 1994 World Cup, was on stage with Sepp Blatter and kept referring to him throughout as Sepp Bladder.
Yeah.
To the point where Sepp Blatter lost
prescient.
his crap on stage, and there's no film of this. And I put in a request to interview Robin Williams just before he passed away, tragically, to capture this. There's no film of it. But he kept saying, Sepp Blatter, I'm here with Sepp Blatter. And finally, Blatter went. He goes, it's not Blatter, it's Blatter. This is not comedy. And I do think that is the way you take this guy down, with just complete parody. You parody the man to death.
One of the best things on YouTube is that video of him falling over.
Yeah.
Especially because it's a kind of fall where you think you hurt yourself then, and that's what's good about it. Because that wasn't a kind of, oh, he's got a graze. That was, you're dealing with that days later, that fall.
But Rog, almost the tragedy of your own piece on Last Week Tonight was that you said that however badly you felt about FIFA, however awful they are, you're still going to watch the World Cup because you love it.
Of course, I can't wait for the 2022 World Cup in November with a non-existent Raheem Sterling. I can't wait. It's morally bankrupt, and I can't wait for
the
it.
26th one, which is going to be an ISIS-controlled Syria. Apparently, it's going to be unbelievable.
I guarantee Sepp Blatter, if the money was right, would give it to an ISIS-controlled area. I guarantee that.
Dave,
I've got a TV question though for you.
Yeah.
So we were looking today at the number of views you get on YouTube when you do the piece. Do you start? But it's not a specifically made for YouTube piece. Very often it's a clip taken from your TV show. Does that get into your head a little bit about when you're making a TV show about doing it for YouTube?
No, I don't. No. It doesn't get into my head at all, because YouTube is a ripple effect.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're making the show in a very real sense for HBO, and ideally people will watch it there.
Yeah.
But not many people have HBO. So like with a FIFA piece, the beauty with putting stories online is that can get incredible audience that don't have access to the story. So there are so many times in New York, I'll get someone coming up who doesn't speak English, ranting at Portuguese, and then all of a sudden I'll hear, "Oh, FIFA," and you're, that's why.
Watch that.
Yeah,
on
so
YouTube.
it gets translated and passed around. That's one of the exciting things about it. We can reach people that we wouldn't reach otherwise.
That was Jerome Champagne. Last question for me on this. What surprised you? Because you're a bold man in many ways. Coming onto American television, making your name. I mean, you pick net neutrality.
Yeah.
You pick complex issues. But to take FIFA before the American public and then getting like 12 million hits on YouTube or whatever, what was fascinating to you about the reaction to the FIFA piece?
Well, the nice thing is, because everywhere else in the world, FIFA, we've grown up with them as being these kind of cartoon villains. So it was interesting to be able to present FIFA to Americans for the first time, to say, this group is absolutely horrific, and here's why. And it was the one time you have their attention in that week run up to the World Cup, where you think this thing that is great, this World Cup's great. I'm not saying it isn't. In fact, I'm saying the opposite. I'm saying it's wonderful, but the group behind it is absolutely appalling. And so it was nice to be able to present people with something that looked like a delicious meal, but was made of horrific ingredients.
We just love the fact that during the World Cup, they would cut, whenever Blatter was in the stadium in Rio, they would cut from Christ the Redeemer immediately a soft dissolve into Sepp Blatter.
I know. He was one step away from just having a full crucifix pose. Just saying, yes, Brazil.
That would be tacky. That's what Brendan Rodgers does. It's tacky. John Oliver, we are overjoyed. We hope your golden dreams of Liverpool Football Club don't come true. We hope your golden dreams for your show and your trajectory and your educating and opening the eyes of America to issues which, frankly, we have to Google if we don't watch your show to fully understand, comprehend, and share your worldview. You're making England look great. You're opening up America to all of these issues, David.
And I'd love to see Stevie G win the FA Cup on his birthday. That would be
on.
amazing.
I know it would hurt you, but there's a fairy tale gene inside you which is screaming out for
what?
it.
In Rog?
His final
in
game
other
for
Rog.
Liverpool.
There is in other Rog. See, there's Rog and there's other Rog. Other Rog is fantastic. He wants him to do. Rog, not so much.
Even as an Everton fan, on his birthday, on his special day.
The only Stevie G I like is Stevie Naismith with a silent G. John, what can I tell you? I wish you Godspeed, and that's it. Say something nice to him amid darkness.
Oh,
thank you.
God, in the same sentence, Stevie G and Stevie Naismith. The same English language sentence. Shame on you.
God is good.
Lovely guy.
And unbelievably successful.
Yeah.
The proof that with an English accent and hair, you can actually be an unbelievably competent and intelligent broadcaster as opposed to a suboptimal one.
Yeah, with talent, which we'll never know about. Incidentally, video of that interview is going to be available on NBCSports.com later this week.
As, by the way, are all our interviews with all of our guests on the MIB show. We actually communicate it in a terrible way.
Yeah.
Normally because we're a bit hurried and or drunk when we're doing this part of the show.
Yeah.
But After the Pies is an extended interview we do with every guest.
I think what you're saying is that we've delivered so much digital content to NBCSports.com. There's so many things to go and watch from Men in Blazers.
The one with my cousin Jason Isaacs, which we got this week, is very lovely and rather long.
Okay, on to the Ravens, Rog. Our first one from Patrick Hogan. Having followed the Premier League casually for several years, I decided to take the jump this season and invest in supporting a team. Inspired by Tim Howard's heroic performances in Brazil and impressed with Roberto Martinez's analytical approach, I fatefully chose Everton. As you might expect, this has been a bumpy first go, but I take some solace in the fact that based on what I see on Twitter, I seem to have been able to fall in line with the emotional state of more seasoned followers. My problem is that I can't seem to find a way to hate Liverpool. I'm embarrassed to admit that I felt some joy this weekend at seeing the beauty of Coutinho's strike, and even found myself agreeing with Sterling's penalty shout. This simply cannot be allowed to continue. As a lifelong Boston Red Sox fan, I know that I'm capable of hating a sworn rival, but for some reason, I can't get to there when it comes to Liverpool. I fear that without this, I can never truly be an Everton supporter. Do you have any advice for me and anyone else in a similar situation?
This is a fascinating question.
Can I just say one thing before? Because I know I have a feeling I know what your answer is going to be. But I think there's a problem here. This is a Red Sox fan, and I would imagine this is a Red who has made a decision to follow a blue team and now feels torn by his allegiance or some allegiance, his inability to hate a team that plays in red. Perhaps he should have, if he's a Red, he should have chosen a red team, right?
It's nonsense. I've seen the Red Sox playing blue. I've seen Oil Can Boyd's tummy tapped in a blue shirt. They swing both ways. But I think the question is a fascinating one. Yeah. It is. It forces you to think about how global fandom is changing the game of football that we thought we knew, Davo, and stretching it in new ways. When we grew up, you supported one team through thick and thin, and that was your local team, right, David?
Yes, but you would support the other English teams. Many English people, Rog, would support the other English teams when they played in the European Cup or the Cup Winners' Cup.
No, you wouldn't, because you don't want them to get the money that those wins would.
I always did growing up.
That's just financial folly.
Lots of English people did, Rog.
Yeah. Take away my citizenship, David, and see if I would care. But fandom's much more fickle now.
You got the paperwork in your briefcase, Rog. You just got to fill it out.
By the way, those of you, we get a lot of emails wanting to know how my American. I have filled in the paperwork. I have it in my bag. I just am terrible at bureaucracy.
Just send him his passport.
I don't know where I'm meant to send it.
He's got the paperwork. He just hasn't filled it out.
As well as not being good with odd sounds that drive me crazy. I'm terrible at bureaucracy, and I can't fathom for the life of me like how to go through the bureaucratic maze. So I desperately want to become American at this point. I think you may have even traded me for that guy from the Citizen 4 films.
Oh, Edward Snowden.
Yeah, I think I've even been traded technically for Edward Snowden.
Fair trade.
And a player to be named later, but I just got to work out this paperwork crap. But what's happening is American fans just relate differently to... I mean, by the way, this is even happening in England. You see kids are starting to gravitate towards winning teams they see play Champions League football. But in America, there's thousands of newly minted fans. They pick teams without the geographical constraint And because they don't have it, they don't have the local animosity. They don't have what you could call the tribalism that's kind of endemic to English football. And I think you may see, Davo, the development of fandom shorn of hatred, which you could argue, and this is a good week to argue it. Yeah.
Would be a great thing.
There's this kind of the pockmarking, the hatred, the tribalism that you could say that besmirches the English game. And in this week, when we've seen the dark side of football fandom, the Chelsea fans in Paris, the West Ham fans allegedly chanting anti-Semitic songs on the London subway, I think it is a good thing. Martin Luther King, darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. I think he was probably talking about football. Having said that, Patrick, if you stare at clips of Brendan Rodgers marching pompously up and down the sideline with his new teeth and fake tan long enough, and I prescribe a dose of 5 minutes every morning when you first get out of bed, the hatred should soon fill you up and bile will flow in your veins.
Okay, Rog, the winner of the coveted Guinness Men in Blazers poet, philosopher, soccer scribe, Raven of the Week is Abby Savage from Brooklyn. Hello, fine sirs. Recent listener to the pod here. The World Cup got me. I feel the need to point out, since you haven't yet, that some magical, mystical potion must have been in the water in the lower half of the Americas circa 1988. Some elixir of the gods that found its way into the blood of all men born that year that causes otherworldly soccer ability, namely Diego Costa, born 7th of October 1988, Brazil. Sergio Aguero, born 2nd of June 1988 in Argentina. And Angel Di Maria, born 14th February 1988 in Argentina. Alexis Sanchez, born 19th December 1988 in Chile. What was in the water? What did their mothers drink? And can I have some? Many great South American... You could probably list another 150 great South American players born in 1988, Rog.
Yeah, I was going to say, on one hand, I just dismiss the question entirely and say, I'd imagine you could pick any year and put a list together of world-class footballers who were born in South America.
Yeah.
But the question's dogged me, Dave. It stayed with me. And I dug deeper.
Okay.
And I imagine I've found what I think is a scientific answer.
Okay, go.
1988.
Yeah.
It's just a remarkable year for music.
Yeah.
Heaven is a Place on Earth.
Uh-huh.
Carlisle, Belinda Carlisle.
Yeah.
Shake Your Love, Debbie Gibson.
Now, were these big hits in Chile?
Get Out of My
Brazil,
Dreams,
Rog?
Get Into My Car.
Yeah.
Billy Ocean.
Yeah.
3 of the greatest love-making songs of all time.
Uh-huh.
They all came out around the same period.
Yeah.
And I'd like to believe Mummy and Daddy Di Maria,
Yeah.
Sanchez, Costa and Aguero, they had a mixtape cassette with all these songs on back-to-back.
Yeah.
Probably along with I Don't Want to Live Without You by Foreigner. And they just kept playing it and playing it and playing it and making sweet, sweet footballing love.
Well, Angel Di Maria's parents would have had to have get advanced copies of those songs, Rog, because he was born in 14th of February, which means he would have been conceived about 9 months before that, 9.5 months before that, Rog. But anyway.
Some songs are timeless.
Yeah, very true. Okay, Rog, your weekend looks like this. Liverpool versus Manchester City. That's 7 a.m. Sunday on NBC Sports Network.
I don't want to live without you.
Arsenal versus Everton, Rog, 9:05 a.m. Sunday on NBCSN. Chelsea versus Spurs in the Capital One Cuppity Cup final, 10:55 a.m. Sunday on beIN Sports. There are many ways to connect
You're
to
going
us.
to watch that game?
I've got to check that I get beIN Sports, Rog. But I hope to watch the game, yeah. I just hope young Ruben Loftus-Cheek is playing. I want to see him play his first full game of football for their senior
Can
team.
you imagine what human being would be produced if Belinda Carlisle and Juan Mata had a baby?
That would be amazing, Roger. It's a superhuman. There are many ways to connect to us. One is through our Amazon Emporium, which helps keep the show going. Anytime you go on Amazon for items big or small, just click off the Emporium page and MIB gets a tiny percentage that allows us to cover the costs of creating the show. What are you putting in the Emporium this week, Roger?
Last week I was on vacation.
Yeah.
Went to Turks and Caicos.
Did you like the Turks and Caicos, Roger?
It's like the last corner of the empire, which made me feel very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But I did meet a lot of lovely GFOPs there who listened to the pod. I want to say hello to all of you, both in Turks and in Caicos.
By the way, after being only 2 hours in England last week, you know who I saw? Prince Philip. Drove right past him. Never seen Prince Philip in my life before. Drove literally right past him. And there he was in the car right next to me, Prince Philip.
Was he at
right
a bus
there.
stop?
No. He was in his special
the
olive green liveried taxi.
Oh, you puddled him.
No, it's right there.
Don't
Anyway,
get me
go
started.
ahead. They would have been excited about that in the TNC.
I was on vacation. I've got to say, a photo, the Queen was everywhere.
Yeah.
It haunted me. There was one above my bed in the hotel. I took it off. Put it in the side closet with the Bible.
The great revolutionary Roger Bennett on vacation in the Turks and Caicos.
That's it.
Yeah.
So I was on vacation, and I decided I'd try and read the kind of books that I would never normally read.
Yeah, books not about the Holocaust.
I read one of those.
Okay, good.
Amazing one called The Book of Aaron, but I won't talk about that. Deep Down Dark, The Untold Stories of 33 Men Buried in a Chilean Mine by Hector Tobar. It's the story of the 33 Chilean miners who were buried for 69 days in a collapsed mine in 2010. It's written by an LA-based journalist who interviewed all parties at an incredible length in the aftermath. Movies make me cry all the time. We discuss this all the time.
Yeah.
Have you ever cried over a book?
Oh, Harry Potter, almost every single one of them, Rog.
God, I read this book in one sitting while my youngest son napped on my lap. And when he woke up, I was sobbing, which probably was not healthy for him to just wake up and the first thing. I was literally sobbing. It is impossible to read this book without thinking about the contemplation of death, the meaning of life, relationships, manhood, fatherhood, familyhood. And I can't recommend it highly enough.
No, very good. I'll have to get that book, Rog. I'm putting in, Rog, the Rhodia Business Collection meeting book. It's in an A5 size. It's made by Rhodia. My life is a struggle to stay organised between running Embassy Row, Men in Blazers, everything else in my life. I'm not that good with computers, Rog, configuring all of my Google Calendar, but I still think I need to write things down and have a calendar where I can also make notes. The Rhodia Business Collection notebook is saving my life right now.
Is it good for organising your broiguses?
Yes, my broiguses. I don't have any broiguses.
You don't?
I really don't have broiguses.
I love a good broigus.
Yeah, but it would be. If you had broiguses and you wanted to organise them, it would be fantastic.
You know, in the day I was going to get a dog.
Yeah.
We were going to call the dog Broigus.
Really?
So it would be the only Broigus in the family.
Oh.
It's a great name for a dog.
That's really good. Okay, other ways to connect to us. meninblazers.wikispaces.com/. It's a wonder of the modern world, Rog. Also, you can always go to meninblazers.com. You can sign up for our newsletter, The Raven, which we produce with our partner Guinness. Rog, follow us on Twitter at Embassy Davies, at Rog Bennett, at meninblazers. Our Instagram, at meninblazers and at embassy_Davies. And go and look at our Facebook page. Lots of great content up there. We've got a subreddit, Rog.
Yes.
meninblazers.reddit.com, maintained by GFOPs Akshay, Calvin, and Alex.
Four of the best pornographers in America.
How dare you? We now have a Spotify account, Rog. Search men_in_blazers. Our second Men in Blazers mixtape is also now up. It's the Champions League edition, Rog. You can send your Ravens to the crap part of Soho, and you can always email meninblazers@gmail.com.
Maybe we should do a mixtape which is just love making music from 1988.
Or mid to late 1987. Venderpunk, Rog.
War Pig.
Who wants to sex Matumbo?
Creme de la creme.